Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. One more entry for you all here as a special nice bonus for y'all. And thank you so much as always for your continued viewing of this channel. And I'll definitely have more videos coming out soon, but I thought I would create this one here because the minute that I read about this, I thought this particular, I guess you could call it a cryptid. It's not a monster, but it's not really a cryptid, but it's almost there, and you'll see why in a minute here. But this particular cryptid was so fascinating that I thought to myself, oh my goodness, this is going to be something that all my fans will absolutely love. So here it is. This is the zombie chicken, and it actually has a name. It goes by Mike, the headless chicken. And for those of you who have heard of this particular fascinating chicken that lived back in the 1940s, then you're familiar, of course, with his adventures. And the most fascinating thing about all this is that this is real. This is not a hoax. This is 100% absolutely real. This happened in the 1940s, and it's very fascinating to share with you the information here. Again, I wouldn't really classify it as a cryptid, but the fact that it's a chicken with its head cut off that still lived, technically, I mean, yeah, it makes it like not really a zombie, not really a cryptid, but it's somewhere in between on there, because no other animal like that can live without its head. And yet here we have an example of a chicken that did so for quite a while. So here's how the story goes. You have to go back to about 1945, and there was this farmer who was named Lloyd Olson, and this is in Colorado. It was that time of the day where they were gonna essentially cook some dinner, and so being a farmer that he is, he had some chicken that he was growing, and then that way whenever the chicken came to a certain age, off with its head and time for dinner on that. So he chose just a random chicken, and it was a 5.5-month-old chicken itself, and he just chose it randomly. Nothing special about this particular chicken. And he got the axe, got the chicken ready, brought down the axe on the head, but he missed a particular vein, the jugular vein, and in fact he missed a certain portion of the head itself, because whenever he did the swipe of the axe, the farmer left part of the brain, or most of the brain stem, intact. So the brain was gone in terms of the head, but the brain stem that's connected to the brain was still there. And in fact, he also left apparently one ear with the chicken. So when this was said and done, all of a sudden the farmer Lloyd was surprised to see that this chicken was essentially balancing himself and just walking around as normal. If anyone has ever seen the videos of a chicken's head being cut off for food, and I remember seeing them, particularly in school, you'll remember that whenever something like that happens, the chicken flails around aimlessly, just completely like a insane thing, just flailing around as much as possible for about a minute or so, and then it dies. But here, this particular chicken did not. It just essentially balanced itself on a perch, and it walked, and it didn't even do anything as far as the usual routine. So that caused Farmer Lloyd to look further into this, and he actually was found curious that this chicken tried to actually groom itself without a head. It didn't realize that its head was gone, but yet here it was, its natural instincts. It was trying to groom itself, I guess the word is preen itself, and it even attempted to actually crow as well. That's the fascinating thing about this. We have a chicken who had its head cut off, didn't realize it was cut off, but it was attempting to do the usual things that it does on there. So when this bird didn't die, then something switched in terms of Farmer Lloyd Olson. He suddenly decided, you know what, I'm going to take care of this bird. This is almost a miracle bird. In fact, another name for the zombie chicken here is Miracle Mike, because of the very extraordinary circumstance, again, of the axe just missing the right area so that the creature still lived. The brainstem apparently on the chicken was enough for it to give all the usual communications in terms of its heart beating, its lungs breathing, its food, its ability to walk, even its natural instincts again to try to crow and to try to preen itself. That was just enough to make sure that everything was there. So very, very fascinating stuff. So he took it upon himself to take care of him, and the way he fed the chicken was without a head, of course, and without its ability to peck. Mike would, I'm sorry, the farmer Lloyd would take a glass or a bottle of, let's say, milk or some kind of minerals, just something in terms of some kind of liquid food, and he would take a bottle dropper and use that item to go towards the neck, as you can see in the picture here, and then drop the little droplets there from the bottle into the actual throat. And that way Mike the chicken, or Miracle Mike, would be able to eat and drink all at the same time without having to have a head to do so on there. Well, word slowly grew that this Miracle Mike, this Miracle Chicken, it was a zombie chicken of sorts, and he became so popular that it dinged inside the farmer's head that, hey, he could make a living off of this. He could make a very good living. And so that's what he did. He took this chicken on a tour, and he became so popular that Life magazine featured him on an actual article. I think it was on the cover too. Time magazine also featured the chicken on an article on too. And according to the research I did, at the height of Mike's popularity, of Miracle Mike's popularity, the public was so enamored to see this zombie chicken and all the tours that were involved, from going to various cities, to various festivals, who knows, maybe even some concerts, universities, anything like that, that at the height, the chicken was earning about $4,500 per month at that time. And so this is 1940s dollar. We're talking now about close to $50,000 per month is what the chicken was earning for the farmer from all this popularity on there. And the chicken itself was so popular that he was able to get insured $10,000. Again, I'm not making this stuff up. This is real. This happened. This is why I wanted to create this video for y'all here, because this is so absolutely fascinating. Who would have ever known that a chicken would have a life insurance policy? But it did. It had one on there. And so here was this Miracle Chicken that was touring the world, at least on the U.S. side, and two major magazines, Time and Life magazine, had featured articles and pictures of the famous chicken on there. The sad news is that with the success of Miracle Mike, the zombie chicken, that there were other copycats associated with this fad. So other people out there, other farmers, other whoever's, thought to themselves, hey, why don't I just get my own headless chicken? And there were a lot of needlessly unnecessary chicken beheadings left and right. People trying to mimic exactly like where to hit the axe, or where to hit the knife, or the scissors, or whatever they used. And no doubt that ended up in a bunch of chickens needlessly going through a lot of pain, especially because, of course, the idea is when you kill a chicken for dinner and you chop off the axe just to the right point, then you have a quick death, because the neck is gone at a certain point and the blood just flows out, and within a minute it's gone. But with so many copycat chicken beheadings happening, people trying to mimic, I guess, trying to get the exact brain stem left enough, or trying to leave enough brain or ear or anything like that, that the chickens would have lasted more time than that, but none of them survived more than a day. So those poor birds, there you had some chickens that went through about a day's worth of who knows what kind of agonizing pain, only to die out slowly 24 hours later. So anyways, beyond that, the tour continued, and the farmer Lloyd was able to create some kind of festivals. In fact, you'll see a picture of a festival here. It looks like there's still this happening right there in, I believe it's still Colorado. So very fascinating stuff, how almost a good, 60, 70 years later, here you have the Miracle Mike, the Headless Chicken, the Zombie Chicken, still becoming a mainstay within that area on there. So what ended up happening eventually to Miracle Mike is that apparently he was around, I think, for about 18 months. Is that how long he lived? Somewhere around there, after the beheading. And he lived that long, just again as a regular chicken. But he was on a tour at the time, And what happened was they had stopped at a motel of some sort, the farmer and the chicken on there, but apparently Miracle Mike happened to something happened with his throat, and he was choking. He was either choking on his own blood or something coagulated in there just enough so that he was choking, and the farmer couldn't find that that bottle dropper to uh, produce enough liquid to ease the opening of the throat, and so Miracle Mike essentially choked to death right there in the motel, and that was it. That was the story on there. There are still websites out there, in fact, associated with the zombie chicken. I'll include one in the link below. It's called MikeTheHeadlessChicken.org. Very, very fascinating stuff. Again, I don't know if I would classify this necessarily as a cryptid. It's definitely not a monster, but it's official term. It's a zombie chicken. That's the term that's been popularized with Miracle Mike. But again, it's very, very fascinating stuff. It's almost a cryptid because, again, here you have something that shouldn't be living, and yet it is. So what's the status of most cryptids? Those are the bizarre, the unnatural, the almost supernatural type creatures that shouldn't be living in some cases, but they are, especially like those, like the atmospheric beasts that float around in the sky on there. But so that's why I'm including this within my particular Cryptids and Monsters series, both as a treat because of how damn fascinating this particular cryptid is, and the fact again that here you had something that should be dead and yet it was living for about a good 18 months on there. So very, very interesting stuff. So if anyone knows more tales associated with Mike the Headless Chicken, the Miracle Mike, the Zombie Chicken, if anyone knows particularly in around the area of Colorado, any of the legends associated with him, maybe even if anybody has any past relatives that happened to go to one of his venues and was able to see this particular fascinating zombie chicken, please post your comments, share them below with everybody. So alright everybody, thanks again as always, take care.